If you ask me, is the church still a house of prayer, or is it a den of thieves, where thieves are so comfortable actually hiding into it? Jesus was so indignant that when he entered into the temple and found that whatever business that is taking place there is exploitation, extortion, money making kind of a venture. He was so angry that he overturned, he chased, he fought, and said, "Get out from here. This is a house of prayer, not a house of merchandise or making a business." This is Bible Speaks Today. My name is John Kimani. Welcome to Mark chapter 11. A very interesting passage here that actually begins by showing Jesus Christ approaching Jerusalem like any devout Jew. Jesus Christ must have made many trips towards Jerusalem, but this one was specifically towards Passover, which is between March and April. And he comes to a place they call Bethage, which is a house of unripe leaves, fig trees, and Bethany, a house of dates and figs, or a city of the poor, a city that is actually closer to Bethany. And this is the last praise that we see. Bethany was the last stop as you go towards Jericho to Jerusalem. And Bethany, of course, was the home of Lazarus, Mary, and Martha. A home that Jesus Christ actually stayed. It was closer to Mount Olives. And Jesus, at this point, we read, he sends two disciples ahead of him. And this is what he says to them: "Go to the village ahead of you, and as you are just and just as you enter it, you find a colt tied there which no one has ever ridden, and tie it and bring it here. If anyone asks you, why are you doing this, say the Lord needs it." In other words, it's useful to him, it's required, it's wanted. And we continue reading there. They says that and I will send it back shortly. Now, I like when Jesus Christ says, "Now go and tell the owner that the Lord needs it." It looks like Jesus Christ had a pre-arranged arrangement with the owners, and that is one of the theory. But one of the most favorable theory is that Jesus Christ has been God, had using the predestination, or actually foreknowledge, or being omniscient, knew that they would find a court somewhere. The owners will ask, "Why you taking it?" But upon explaining why it is needed, he will release it. Now we see that we in ministry, we are required to make ourselves available. In a moment when companies are actually downsizing, how do you make sure that you're useful, you are needed? Because it is a very difficult time. How do you make yourself indispensable? How do you make sure that even when people are being fired or being chased away, you become indispensable, you are not chased away? Now, number one, be reliable. Be somebody who keeps his word. Even when things are tough, be the first one to offer solution. Don't duck away. Stay around and offer solutions. Number two, for you to be indispensable such that you're not chased away, volunteer to do those the tasks that everybody is running away from. People don't in church. People don't want to do pews. They don't want to do pews. Do them. People doesn't want to keep the compound dirty, tidy, do it. People are running away from doing the rattling, do it. In other words, those tasks that everybody is running away, be the first one to volunteer. Your senior is likely to feel pleased when you help him doing those difficult assignments. Be a solution finder. Number four, be passionate. Do it with energy. Do it with enthusiasm. Be eager to do them. Do it and don't demand credit. That's another way that you're going to be somebody who is indispensable. Become self-educated. Learn how to do things that others don't want to know. In other words, grab ideas on how activities can be done faster and better. And don't keep this information to yourself. Share it with others. You are going to be indispensable. In other words, the seventh thing is become helpful. Give ideas that can solve challenges at hand. Prepare, make sure that you're preparing your organization to be profitable. Remove obstacles so others can become effective. When you do that, then you're going to be indispensable. People will value you. People will not want you to go away because they find you useful and a very important person. So, and they go, these disciples, they go, they find, just as Jesus Christ has told them. They are asked, why are you picking this court? And they say, Jesus Christ needs this. And these people actually surrender. You know, in moments when Jesus Christ was rejected, humiliated, and used, in this time we see people actually honoring and accepting the request of Jesus Christ. And we see Jesus Christ actually climbs up this court, and he goes into Jerusalem in a triumphal entry, and people are singing for him, Hosanna, which is an exclamation of praise, meaning, oh, save us now. They say, blessed, or in other words, they praise him, they speak well, they act kindly. You know, a fulfillment, of course, of Zechariah chapter 9 verse 9, which says, rejoice greatly, people of Jerusalem, shout for joy, people of Jerusalem. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our father David. Hosanna is the highest heaven. For most of Jesus' ministry, of course, we don't see this kind of niceties being given to him. And at this time, at the tail end of his ministry, when he is heading to the cross, this is happening. Jesus, verse 11, enters into Jerusalem and goes to the temple court, and this is known as a triumphal entry. It was a laughable one because Jesus Christ actually uses a donkey, uses not a horse. You know, during those times in Roman times, a general would do a triumphal entry, having killed 5,000 enemy soldiers, and it was an elaborate, planned kind of a parade where the Prada or the captured prisoners will go him. Then the general would pass riding, of course, a very executive or magnificent kind of a chariot that was pulled not by any kind of a horse but a nerite. And then priest would follow behind, of course, burning incense and praising the name of the winner. And then at the tail end, they would end at the tail end of the procession, there would be an arena, and it will be packed full, and these prisoners, of course, would be released to the wild beast, and the Romans would enjoy this. For Jesus, it was nothing close to that. It was simply people rain down the clothes and fig trees, you know, and palm trees, and just singing, a bunch of people singing, nothing spectacular about it. And when he looked around, of course, we continue reading at everything. It was a little bit late. In other words, his mission was to ask, is Jerusalem ready for me? And then he goes back to Bethany where he spends the night. He's already ready. Something very strange happens here. Very strange. And Jesus Christ is leaving Bethany. He's very hungry, we read, and sees the fig tree from a distance. And he goes out to find food, and he doesn't find. And then he curses it. And then he said in verse 14, may no one ever eat fruit from you again. And the disciples heard from it. And the question we are asking, if we refuse to be productive, if we refuse to be people who are solution finders, if we refuse to be helpful, if we refuse to generate ideas that can propel organizations forward, we are going to appear like this fig tree that appear to be green, advertising its beauty, advertising how special and how unique it is. But actually, when people come and look at us, they are not going to find anything in our lives. And when Jesus Christ, in his hunger, in his problem, he could not find anything useful in this tree. And what did he do? He pronounced a curse, and the disciples had him. It can't be. It can be true that sometimes we can appear to be godly, to be religious, to be men who are dressed well, but actually inside us, when people come at us, they can't find anything that can help their lives. And the question that we are asking tonight as a church, we need not to be like this fig tree, because at this time it was March, April, and the fig trees of that time were supposed to have edible pods, and these edible pods were for common people, and there were indications that when it comes to May, June, that this fig tree would have fig trees. The absence of these edible pods actually meant that coming the harvest time there will be nothing, and so this fig tree was likely to be cut, because even it missed the edible pods for common people, which meant that coming May, June, there will be nothing. And we can be there, very green, very appealing, with a lot of advertising on TikTok, on social media, but actually inside us there is nothing. May God actually help us. And of course, Jesus Christ in verse 15, he goes and enters temple courts and very strangely begins driving out those buying and selling there, overturning the tables of money changers. And these money changers were actually, because in those times there were three kind of money. There was the imperial money, which was Roman. There was provincial money, which Greek used, and the local money, of course, the Jewish, the ones that was used to pay the temple tax. Of course, you know that the adult male needed to pay the annual tax using the Jewish money. But for the imperial and the provincial money, had human portraits, which was considered idolatrous for the Jews. And so the money changers actually were there to help, because when you wanted to pay the temple tax, you would have to use, if you have the imperial or the provincial money, you had to surrender it so that you're given the Jewish temple money. And of course, in the benches there were also the doves, and which were sold at exorbitant prices. Of course, it was a cartel between the money changers and the priest, so that they would be able to benefit. And this was allowed by priest Caiaphas. And Jesus Christ is very angry that the priest, of course, had changed the place of worship into a merchandise, and they had gone there under the authority of high priest Caiaphas, and were making lucrative and they were exploiting the people, and the money changers were charging exorbitant prices, making unqualified or unwarranted profits. And Jesus Christ actually comes and overturns the tables, changes them away, and accuses them. But you, of course, the Pharisees and the religious class of the day, you have made it a den, a hideout. Instead of it being a venue of prayer, somewhere people can come and pray, you've turned it into a den, a hideout. It is a place where unrepentant, active sinners are come and associate themselves with. You've made it a den of robbers, people who practice stealing on the outside of the temple where we should be worshiping. Dishonesty practices have been taking place, and he chases them away. And maybe we've reduced the church into a den of thieves, maybe, because there we make politicians who are corrupt so comfortable that they can come and do politics at the pulpit. Have we not changed the praise of prayer into a den of these? When we allow those politicians with their dirty money, with their ill-gotten wealth, to come and make crazy and ungodly speeches on our pulpit, pastors, are we not exchanged? Have we not turned the house of prayer into a den of these? May God really help us. And the teachers of the law, of course, are very angry, verse 18, and they look for a way to kill Jesus. And one of the ways they're thinking is to cause an uproar, to cause an uprising, because they knew, of course, Jesus Christ was popular. So they had to look for a way in which to make Jesus look bad in the eyes of the crowd. But again, look at the crowd. They look at him. They hear about this. They are astounded. They are overwhelmed. They are struck out of their senses. And this is the fifth time such is happening. Evening come, and Jesus and his disciples goes out in the city. Now on Tuesday, verse 20, they walk along, and what do we see? We are reminded, Mark reminds us of the story, and they saw the fig tree has withered from the roots. And they're shocked. They're really shocked. And Peter, being the spokesman, of course, says, Rabbi, which is a teacher, the fig tree you cast has withered. Peter is marveled. He is shocked, like, how did it happen? Because it's something that they did not expect. And Jesus actually says very simply, have faith in God. Rely on God. Depend on God. And then he says, truly I tell you, if anyone says to this mountain, mountains is an immovable object. Mountain is a problem, is an obstacle. He was pointing to the mountain of Olives, which was common in those days. If anyone would tell this Mount Olives, crack yourself, go throw yourself into the sea, that means uproot yourself, go and throw yourself to the Dead Sea, which was visible from wherever these people were, and does not doubt, which means is not wavering, actually is have confidence in their heart, but believes, is confident that will happen. In other words, any obstacle that stands in your way, as long as you're doing it in faith, in confidence, if you say, get out and go and throw yourself into the sea and don't doubt, it's going to happen. I wish we have such a faith, such confidence. And in verse 25, a very common passage there, it says, and when you stand praying, which is the normal posture of praying, and you hold anything against anyone, forgive them fast, which means religious duty should never be replaced with relational duties. When you do that, your Father in heaven will forgive your sins. And it shows that lack of faith is not only the obstacle to our answered prayer, but our unresolved relationship conflicts can cause us an answered prayer. Verse 27, they are alive, of course, they are in Jerusalem again, and the religious crowds are actually against Jesus. And the elders come and they ask him a very simple question: by what authority do you do these things? Who gave you authority to overturn the temple? Who gave you authority to stop businesses that goes on there? Who gave you authority to chase away the money changers? Who gave you authority to say my house? Who gave you authority? And I mean, who are you in the first place to do this? And Jesus Christ is very smart. He asked them, I will ask you one question. Answer me, and I'll tell you. In other words, he tells you, if you are very interested in knowing who have given me authority, I will ask you a question, and if you answer it, then I'm also going to answer your question. And he asked them a very simple question. John's baptism, was it from heaven or was it from man? Tell me. It's a very simple question. Tell me, was John baptizing from heaven or from man? That was a very tricky question, because of course we know they murdered him, they killed him. They rejected him. They did not believe in him. And so it's a very tricky question. And you know, friends, we need to have such kind of wisdom that we are able to counteract. We are able to stop our critics right there at their tracks. And you know, they go for a conference. They discuss it among themselves. And they say, if we say from heaven, You ask us, why did you not believe in him? If you say from human origin, of course, people won't believe, because of course they knew that John origin was not man, it was not, it was from God. And so they prayed tricky, they prayed safe. They say, we don't know, we don't know. Critics, they never want to trap themselves, so they will use the word we don't know. And when they tell you they don't know, then Jesus Christ actually answers, okay, I won't tell you. I won't tell you by what authority I'm doing these things. Jesus ignores them, and he forgets about them. Very beautiful way of dealing with critics. And we pray that God is going to give us wisdom, such that those religious critics, those people who criticize us, those people who bring us down, those people who point at our mistakes, we're going to have the wisdom to be able to handle them. This is Bible Speaks Today, online from forum where we examine the truth and the insights or the ideas that come from the Bible and checks whether they are relevant for the world today. Until next week, such a time as this, we want to encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, that is Inawezekana TV, the voice of hope. My name is John Kimani. Don't touch that dial.